Next on Currents News, more than 1,000 kids from around the Brooklyn Diocese are praying to the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Rosary Rally is one of the church's biggest celebrations of young faith. Now Catholic nuns and the Ronald Reagan Library are being threatened by the fire disaster in California. We'll have the latest from the tortured state. And the Supreme Court could step in to decide if abortion should remain legal in the United States. That may be likely after an Alabama judge stopped a pro-life law from going into effect. Some don't believe Baghdadi's dead. ISIS prisoners are denying that U.S. Special Forces eliminated the world's most wanted terrorist. Plus, Mother Cabrini is now being considered on the floor of the House of Representatives. Congress is looking at a new way to honor New York's beloved saint. The news starts right now. Children coming from all over Brooklyn and Queens, they're rallying for heavenly intercession. Good evening, I'm Tamara Lane. More than 1,000 Catholic kids arriving today at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph. They're there to pray the Rosary together for all things big and small. Currents News' Tim Harfman reports.
Catholic kids arriving by the busloads, rallying together for the Blessed Virgin Mary's help. Over 1,000 children from a dozen Catholic academies across Brooklyn and Queens arriving at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph to pray the Rosary as one.
Being in Catholic school, I always thought that praying was really important, and it's one of the ways that you worship God, and I think using an instrument like the Rosary is really important.
With the sacred beads held in their hands, the students are praying for what's personal. But they also have big issues as the objects of their prayer, especially the sanctity of life.
We are here for a reason, to love God, and we are here to honor and to respect our lives given, and to give away such an amazing life is a big sin.
8th grader Philip Drazik is praying for the less fortunate.
I think about helping all the poor and my family for everything that they have or what I have. And everyone needs in this world, like food, water, they're hungry.
The Catholic Church dedicates the month of October to praying the Rosary. Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop James Massa leading today's Rosary rally, praying for the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Children have an intuitive sense that Mary is the mother of all Christians, the mother of the Church. And when we unite ourselves in the devotion of the Holy Rosary, we are connected with the whole church.
Connected to the whole church, all from the Diocese of Brooklyn. In Prospect Heights, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
The teachers and students call themselves prayer warriors, and this rally helps remind them they're not alone. While the school children of the diocese are praying for all aspects of life, the Supreme Court could play a big role in deciding if abortion stays legal in the United States. Currents News' Emily Druby reports that justices are likely to get involved after Alabama's strict pro-life law was put on hold by a judge.
The fight for life heating up across the United States. Pro-life laws in several states have run into roadblocks in lower courts that could propel them to the Supreme Court. The latest being Alabama, a federal judge blocking a law that would end nearly all abortions in the state. Christian Rada, the director of Respect Life Education for the Brooklyn Diocese, explains the judge's action is actually encouraging to many pro-life advocates.
My counterparts in Alabama have been saying that they're encouraged by this block, actually. This is a way for not just the Alabama community to address the abortion issue, but more of the nation to address it.
The decision to halt Alabama's pro-life law could wind up before the Supreme Court, which some of the state's politicians have made clear is the ultimate goal. It's also believed to be the goal of other state lawmakers in places like Georgia, Ohio, and Kentucky. They've all passed pro-life laws against abortion that have been overturned. As appeals move forward, they hope the cases will get to the justices justices on the High Court, and with a new conservative majority on the bench, Roe v. Wade might be reversed. Kathleen Gallagher of the New York State Catholic Conference says the fight to protect life is crucial, but she worries that going to the Supreme Court too quickly could backfire.
It could actually move us back further away from toppling Roe, where they could further embed it into our abortion jurisprudence.
Adding, no one knows how the justices will vote on abortion matters. As the fight for life continues, pro-life advocates remind others why it's important.
Babies are the most defenseless members of our community. And if we cannot defend babies, then who can we defend?
Emily Druby, Currents News.
Now for the latest on the disaster in California. The wildfires are growing by the hour, and the flames are being whipped by fierce winds. The Getty fire that is raging through communities west of Los Angeles is forcing the evacuation of Mount St. Mary's University in Brentwood and endangering a group of retired nuns. The Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet are being told to shelter in place. More than 80 of the nuns and staff are said to be scared but in good spirits. A short time ago, I talked with Debbie Ream, the spokesperson for Mount St. Mary's, about clearing people away from the campus.
Everyone was safely evacuated from the campus early Monday morning by 3:30 a.m. There's no significant damage to the campus, no significant structural damage. We do have some non-structural damage from smoke, soot, some water damage, a few windows that were broken. We are so grateful for the fire department for their actions during all of these fires, but until we're allowed to get onto campus, we don't have an idea quite yet of the extent to which we'll have to do cleanup.
Debbie told me no one knows yet when the campus will reopen. It all depends on the fires. One of the rampaging fires is now threatening the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. Flames are closing in on the site, and it's only one of the many wildfires that have the state on edge. Daryl Forges reports the latest from Semi Valley.
A new battlefront in the California wildfire crisis as hurricane-force winds lead to yet another inferno. Residents of Simi Valley woke this morning to the glow of a newborn blaze dubbed the Easy Fire. Officials say the flames from this new fire have already claimed more than 1,300 acres and may be growing. A rare extreme red flag warning issued to Southern California, warning citizens to stay alert. Nearby, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library evacuated as flames and smoke close in. The library holds the graves of President Reagan and former First Lady Nancy Reagan, and the fire also threatening 6,500 homes and other structures. As low relative humidity continues and winds feed the fires, thousands of residents try to escape, and people aren't the only ones in need of evacuation. Officials and volunteers working to rescue animals from the raging flames.
I'm trying to contact these people. I have no idea who they are, so if these are your horses, please let me know.
And in other parts of the state, firefighters continue to work round the clock to contain at least 10 other fires, such as the Getty and Kincaid blazes. The strong Santa Ana winds posing additional dangers as a threat of even more destruction looms. In Simi Valley, California, Daryl Forges, Currents News.
Turning now to record-breaking news from the southern border. More migrant families are being arrested than ever before. Nearly 500,000 undocumented people have been apprehended. That's triple from the year before. The crush of migrants is being driven by a surge in asylum seekers. Also, more than 76,000 unaccompanied children were taken into custody. That total is higher than any year on record. Overseas, a deadly crisis is gripping Iraq tonight. Thousands of protesters filling the main square in Baghdad. They're angry about unemployment, corruption, and the lack of basic services. The crackdown against them has been fierce. More than 80 people are dead, with thousands more wounded since Friday. At the Vatican this morning, Pope Francis mourned the loss of life.
Mentre esprimo cordoglio per le vittime e vicinanza alle loro famiglie e ai feriti, invito le autorità a ascoltare il grido della popolazione che chiede una vita degna e tranquilla.
The Holy Father also urged all Iraqis to pursue a path of dialogue and reconciliation with the help of the international community. He said he's praying for the right solutions to the challenges and problems of Iraq. There's a lot more news headed your way. We go inside an ISIS prison camp where they're saying the world's worst terrorist is still alive. Election day is around the corner, and moments away, a Catholic Monsignor and Jewish rabbi will be here to look at faith and your vote. We'll tell you what Jimmy Carter is planning to do next after breaking his pelvis. He's on the move. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A huge threat still looms from the Islamic State, even though ISIS boss Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. Thousands of ISIS fighters are being held prisoner in Syrian camps, ready to carry on their rampage. As Sam Kelly reports, many are denying that U.S. Special Forces eliminated Baghdadi.
Mostly captured on the battlefields, allegedly fighting for the so-called Islamic State. They're malnourished and weakened, but these men still pose a potent threat.
The Syrian Democratic Forces are responsible for detaining nearly 10,000 ISIS fighters. We understand that it is a threat that some of the detainees might want to break out and be free.
The Kurds say about 800 alleged ISIS fighters have escaped from prisons like this one near Hasaka. Many foreign fighters and their families are held in prisons and camps, their home countries refusing to take them back to face trial, even as the guards dwindle in number and join the fight against Turkey.
We're holding thousands of ISIS fighters right now, and Europe has to take them.
The US president has celebrated the death of ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead.
An estimated 70,000 women and children from ISIS areas are housed in this camp alone. Some of the so-called caliph's followers remain defiant here even after his death.
سمعتوا عن خبر مقتل البغدادي؟ لا إن شاء الله ما قتل. ها؟ ما سمعتي الخبر؟ لا ما اسمع خبر. الرئيس الأمريكي امبارحة نفسه طلع وأعلن مقتل البغدادي. والله كذاب بإذن الله. ليش تستفادين مني ولا تشرفياش؟ بس خليش روحين حال شخصيا. قبل ما أسوي شيء. مالكم زعلانين الخليفة قتل؟ لا ما احنا زعلانين ولاد بداله 100 واحد. شنو يعني ولا قتل؟ فاكرين خلص.
Such threats are being passed down a generation.
وإن شاء الله ده يجيكم نهار بدك تتحسروا هيك. إن شاء الله بدكم تصيروا حسرتنا ها. كل إن شاء الله بدنا نحصركم نحن ها. لا تفكروا أن الدولة خلص انتهت.
That was Sam Kelly reporting. There's uncertainty tonight over who will be the new boss of ISIS. President Trump is saying American troops have already taken out Baghdadi's apparent successor. Now for the latest on the impeachment battle on Capitol Hill. State Department employees are testifying behind closed doors today. Catherine Croft arriving this morning to reportedly tell lawmakers that she's learned that acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney put an informal hold on military aid to Ukraine. And Christopher Anderson testifying that Rudy Giuliani had a key role in Ukraine policy. And then National Security Advisor John Bolton called that an obstacle. Next Tuesday is officially Election Day, but New Yorkers can vote right now. The city is giving voters the option to cast their ballots through Sunday. Sites are set up in more than 30 locations across all 5 boroughs. So far, more than 12,000 New Yorkers have voted early. Tonight, we're asking 2 religious leaders about voting and whether ballots should be linked to faith. Joining us are Monsignor Guy Massey, pastor of Sacred Heart's St. Stephen Church in Brooklyn, and his friend Rabbi Brad Hirschfield, the president of the National Jewish Center for Learning and Leadership. Thank you both for being with us.
Great to be with you.
So let's start with what should Catholic and Jewish voters pay attention to when making their election choices? Monsignor, let's start with you.
Okay. You know, that's, I guess one's faith really does affect how one lives and decisions that one makes all of the time. But when it comes to voting, I think even the United States Catholic bishops have made a statement just on this question. And they tell us that we need to form a conscience, have a Catholic formed conscience, meaning that a conscience is not something that says I could do whatever I like because I feel that way, but rather what is the church saying about these issues? What is the scripture saying? How are you being led to do this?
Rabbi, what about you?
So I think where we absolutely agree is that for people of deep faith, and I want to be clear, at least for Jews, I don't presume that all Jews need to bring a deep faith into their politics. But if one brings deep faith into the rest of their lives, there's no reason it shouldn't be present with them in the voting booth as well. There is, however, a profound difference between the principle of separation of church and state. And in addition to that, there's another notion, which is not religion and state, which must be kept separate, but faith and politics, which means our most deeply held beliefs should always shape our lives, with a significant cautionary note.
I want to talk about party lines. Some people of faith may support Democrats on many social issues like immigration, and then Republicans are likely to get backing from voters who are pro-life as well as pro-Israel. Are there religious voting blocs now? Rabbi?
There probably are, and it's not good for religion and it's not good for politics. The assumption that one is only pro-life if they, now fill in the blank and I don't care, think about it, my way, think about it, your way, if there's an our way, that's a very small concept of pro-life. The same thing could be said for pro-Israel or anything else. Once any significant policy becomes my way or the highway, typically all that happens is the most extreme elements of society, on whatever the issue, control the day. And that never works out well for anyone except the most extreme elements.
Monsignor, is there anything you'd like to add?
I would like to make a comment on that. You know, one of the things you have to realize is that you have to be also concerned when you're voting about the dignity of people, of humanity that is, about the structures in which our humanity lives. So the family, the schools, the communities. The common good, you know, the common good is living that moral life in the public square, and also solidarity with the rest of the world. But this idea of you bringing faith to certain things, you know, one of the questions I have there is, yes, there's a separation between church and state, but is there a separation between religion and state?
Well, listen, that's faith and politics.
Yeah,
I don't think there can be for people of deep belief. Common good is a great term, though. The one thing almost all Americans agree to is they're concerned about the common good, and they think the other guys who don't agree with them aren't. So the first thing we're going to have to do is widen our conception of common good to include those who we don't think is commonly so good.
Really quickly, what if a voter says that they just can't decide and so they're not going to go out and vote? What do you have to say to them? Quickly, Rabbi?
Look, I think voting is a sacred obligation whether you believe in God or not. I absolutely understand not wanting to vote, so go write someone in.
Right.
Monsignor.
I mean, I vote because I'm an American, and I have a right to do that, and I think many people have suffered for that right. And I think that, yes, writing in something, you have a voice, and then you also have a voice to complain, too. If you don't vote, then you have no complaint either. So I think it's very important to vote.
Lively conversation, debate, a key point in a thriving democracy. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us.
Thank you.
Monsignor Guy Massey, pastor of Sacred Hearts St. Stephen Church, and Rabbi Brad Hirschfeld, the president of the National Jewish Center for Learning and Leadership. Thank you so much for being with us.
Pleasure.
Now for an update on former President Jimmy Carter. He's not letting 2 falls and a broken pelvis stop him. Less than 2 weeks after his latest tumble, the lifelong Baptist will return to teach Sunday school this weekend. Carter has taught at Georgia Church for years and originally said he wouldn't be up for an appearance. In a Facebook post, the church said he's now in great spirits and is ready to get back on his feet. He is currently the oldest living president and a cancer survivor. Up next on Currents News, stories you'll only find right here. The tale of a bat boy for a legendary baseball team. The tablet has the exclusive report. Editor-in-Chief Jorge Dominguez is moments away. Congress could soon be taking action to honor Mother Cabrini in a new way. The tablet has some amazing stories this week that you'll want to read. Here's a rundown, an in-depth look at the most fascinating bat boy in baseball history, and a breakdown of the historic synod on the Amazon. Editor-in-Chief Jorge Dominguez is here to tell us more. Jorge, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Tamara.
So it is Game 7 of the World Series, but the tablet has a baseball story of its own, one that hits close to home.
You could call it the Forrest Gump of baseball. Eddie Bennett was born right here in Brooklyn, in Flatbush, and he is, his tomb is in St. John's Cemetery in Middle Village. And our own Ed Wilkinson have written a fascinating article about his life. This guy, he had a very tough life. He was the batter boy for the White Sox of 1919. Remember the famous scandal in the World Series 100 years ago this year? And then he became a batter boy for the Yankees and very close to Babe Ruth. Now his tomb is unmarked, and Ed wants to do something about it. You have to read the story.
Well, the tablet also has been following the historic synod on the Amazon that just wrapped up. Tell us, what can readers find?
Well, the synod about the Amazonian region was, it have been all over the place, the debates about everything that happened there, inside and out of the synod hall. If you want to know all the details, we have two articles, in-depth articles. One is about what was discussed in the synod, married priests, women deacons, a new rights for the mass in the Amazon. All these serious debates are analyzed in an article on what is going to happen next. But then we have another article talking about what happened in the synod, in Rome, with those statues that were thrown in the Tiber, in the river Tiber, and then recuperated, and what was all that about. So if you want to know everything that happened inside and outside the synod, you have to read the tablet this week.
So much packed into one paper.
Yes.
Jorge Dominguez, editor-in-chief of the tablet, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Tamara.
The tablet needs your support to ensure that Catholic journalism will thrive well into the future. You can do so by buying the paper at your parish or subscribing to the tablet so that it comes right to your mailbox. You'll save up to 55% by having it delivered to your home versus paying for it at church. Go to the website thetablet.org/home55 or call 877-883-8356. And please check out one of the latest features in the tablet, the Our Diocesan Family page. That's where you can send in photos of your family receiving certain sacraments, such as baptism, first communion, confirmation, and marriage. For more information and to submit your pictures, go to thetablet.org/ourdiocesanfamily. Finally tonight, the campaign to honor Mother Cabrini in New York is snowballing. The latest move, a possible post office named in her honor. U.S. Representative Max Rose has introduced legislation to honor the patron saint of immigrants. He wants the post office on 13th Avenue in Dyker Heights named for Mother Cabrini. The bill comes on the heels of a movement to honor her after the saint was passed up by a city commission building statues of historic women. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio is currently working with the governor to build their own statue of the much-loved saint. Next, we might see her on the $5 bill.
You have to believe it.
That is Currents News. I'm Tamara Lane. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.